Rewriting college football history the way it could have been, the way it should have been. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share the videos on social media, and of course subscribe. That way you turn on the bell for the notifications and know when we're going live throughout the week. We have reviewed the 1983 college football season and determined a new national champion and what that season would have looked like in a BCS era format and also in the current college football playoff format. Now we move our attention to 1990 and what a disaster of a national championship race and conclusion we had in 1990. The final AP vote. Colorado number 1 at 11-1-1, coming off an Orange Bowl win over Notre Dame. Number 2, Georgia Tech 11-0-1 with a Citrus Bowl win over Nebraska. In the UPI, Georgia Tech eked out a national championship poll vote over Colorado with 847 votes to the Buffalo's 846. Seems fair. Colorado in a tougher conference, tougher schedule, 1 loss, 1 tie, wins half the vote, and Georgia Tech wins the other half in the UPI. This just prior to the USA Today. There were 7 teams with 2 losses and a couple teams that currently would possibly be given greater consideration, certainly in Louisville's case because they play in the ACC. But at this point in time, Houston and Louisville, basically independents, and well, Houston was playing in the Southwest Conference for Louisville as an independent, almost viewed as a group of 5 type team. They finished 10th and 14th in the nation. Houston at 10-1 on probation, as they were often during that time. 10-1, did not play in a bowl game, and Louisville off a Fiesta Bowl victory over Alabama, finishing at 10-1-1, number 14 in the country. All right. Let's review Colorado's season and then get to the controversy. They tied number 8 Tennessee in the Pigskin Classic. That was the first game of the year. Back when we had kickoff classics, Pigskin Classics, they were a whole lot of fun back then. Colorado's loss came in September at Illinois 23-22. Their marquee wins against Texas, number 22 in the nation, and 12th ranked Washington. Now comes the controversy. If you have not heard of this or don't know the details, buckle in. Listen to this. Colorado playing at Missouri, conference game at the time. Tigers leading 31-27. Buffalo's in the hurry-up offense, needing to score a touchdown, gain a first down at the Mizzou 3 with 35 seconds left to play. On first down, backup quarterback Charles Johnson spiked the ball to stop the clock. On second down, Eric Bieniemy ran down to the 1-yard line. Clock ticking, so Colorado took a timeout. Its final timeout. This is where the controversy started and the miscues ensued. The officials crew, the chain crew, they forgot to flip the down marker to third down. They kept it on second down. So it's actually third down, but on the field we see second down as indicated by the yard marker. So on third down, Eric Bieniemy stuffed at the 1-yard line. So now it's fourth down, but quarterback Charles Johnson and everyone on the field apparently thought it was still third down, even though the indicator was fourth down. So Johnson, the quarterback, thinking it was still third down, and the clock running at 2 seconds, spiked the ball to stop the clock and set up a fourth down play to win the game. In fact, that was the fourth play. It should have been fifth down and no down and game over. But Colorado was awarded a next play because everybody on the field thought it was fourth down. Charles Johnson kept it for the quarterback touchdown on the keeper, and Colorado won the game. Well, the officials realized what had happened. While all the players were still on the field, they waved everything off. They huddled for 20 minutes to decide what had happened and what they could possibly do to fix it. Well, they couldn't because, of course, the quarterback would not have spiked the ball on fourth down. So Would Colorado have scored on fourth down? Or would they have been stuffed again and game over? Well, we'll never know. What we do know is that they received 5 plays. So the officials ruled a touchdown, and Colorado won 33-31. They did not attempt the PAT because they didn't want to have it blocked and run back for a 2-point conversion and a tie game. 33-31, Colorado wins on a 5th down against Missouri. Colorado goes on to the Orange Bowl, and not only with 1 loss and 1 tie, and then a probable 2nd loss with a tie, Colorado also somewhat lucked into a win in the Orange Bowl, leading Notre Dame 9-3, the 5th-ranked team in the country at the Orange Bowl. 43 seconds left to play. Colorado punts to one of the most dangerous and prolific players in the country, Rocket Ismail, who runs 92 yards for a touchdown. But wait a minute. The play was called back due to a controversial clipping call. Very ticky-tack foul. I watched the game live. So Colorado came this close. Should have had 2 losses and a tie. Came that close to having 3 losses and a tie. That wouldn't even have earned them a finish in the top 15 in the country. Yet, Colorado won a split national championship. Let's look at Georgia Tech out of the ACC. They finished 11-0-1, 6-0-1 in the conference. Their best wins were against South Carolina, 25th ranked in the country at the time of the win, 27-6, but South Carolina slumped to 6-5. Georgia Tech also defeated number 15 Clemson, 21-19. The Tigers finished at 10-2. Good football team. Their most impressive win at the time of kickoff was in defeating Virginia, 41-38. The Virginia Cavaliers, believe it or not, in 1990, at least at that point in the season, were number 1 ranked in the country. Georgia Tech beat them by a field goal. The Cavaliers finished at 8-4, barely in the top 25. So, in this screwed up status and state of college football, I should say, at the time in 1990, Colorado at number 1, the Big 8 champion, goes to the Orange Bowl and plays an at-large invite in Notre Dame, number 5 in the country. The number 2 ranked team in the country, Georgia Tech, who'd they play? Number 3, number 4, number 6, number 10, number 12? How about 19th ranked Nebraska out of the Big 8? Did not win a conference, number 19 in the country, coming in with 2 losses going into the game at 9-2. 45-21, Georgia Tech beat Nebraska by 24 points. Houston was a 10-1 football team in the Southwest Conference. They would have won the championship, but they lost the tiebreaker head-to-head to Texas. 45-24 loss there. 10-1, finished 2nd in the Southwest Conference in losing the tiebreaker, but they were on NCAA probation. Head coach by Judd Jenkins, and only had 1 ranked win. Louisville, the Independent, no ranked wins on the season, the regular season. Their loss was to Southern Miss, an 8-4 team, and a group of 5 type team at the time under Howard Schnellenberger. The Cardinals defeated Alabama, 25th ranked in the country, 34-7. They annihilated the Tide in the Fiesta Bowl. So, there you have it, a split national championship under the vote. Okay, if we move this situation up to the BCS era, which started in 1998, Colorado would have played Georgia Tech in the national championship game. There you go. They were 1-2. Or if Colorado would not have won the game against Missouri and the officials would have done their jobs and the yard marker crew, then Colorado's out of it. And Georgia Tech at 10-0-1 would have played who? Get this. We've got 5 teams with 2 losses. All 5 teams at 9-2. All with similar resumes. Miami, Florida State, Washington, Notre Dame, and Penn State were all 9-2. And Washington was the only team, this is back in 1990, out of those 5 teams, Washington was the only team that played in a conference. All right. Let's move this situation up to the college football playoff era. And to a certain extent, we're going to keep the conferences back in the 1990 form. Here we go. In the ACC, Georgia Tech, 10-0-1, would have played Clemson in the conference championship game. And we're going to stay with chalk here. We don't know what would have happened. Georgia Tech goes on to win the ACC at 11-0-1. Okay, in the SEC, interesting SEC championship game here. Florida and Ole Miss. Of course, we didn't have the divisions then, so the schedules would have been different, and who knows. But we'll go with what we had then, with Florida winning the SEC East, Ole Miss in the West. Florida's at 10-2. I didn't mention them just a few minutes ago as a possible participant in the national championship game. This is why. Like Clemson, Florida was on probation. So let's say Florida, let's take them out of probation. They win the SEC championship game over Ole Miss. They're 10-2. All right, on to the Big Ten. Michigan and Illinois would have played in the Big Ten championship game. Michigan will give them the win. They had the better record and won the regular season matchup. Michigan, though, out of the national championship race at 9-3. In the Pac-12, Washington, USC. Washington gets the nod with a better record at 10-2. Your Big 8 championship game, very important here, Colorado and Nebraska, but then again, Colorado's got the extra loss, having lost actually the game that they should have lost on the fifth down play against Mizzou. Nebraska had 2 losses, so whomever wins that game is out of it anyway as the Big 8 champion. And in the Southwest Conference, interesting matchup here, because Texas won the Southwest Conference in a tie against Houston. Tie for the division conference championship. Beat Houston head-to-head. So we give the rematch to Texas. And the Longhorns are 11-1. Interesting here. And then we've got a glut of independents. Louisville 9-1-1. Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, and Penn State all at 9-2. Well, Louisville would not have been given consideration considering their schedule at that point as an independent, and a kind of group of 5 feel to Louisville football at the time and the way they scheduled their loss against Southern Miss. They would not have been considered. Here's where it gets interesting and confusing and convoluted, and really we can't determine who comes out of this thing because Miami beat Florida State. Notre Dame beat Miami. Penn State beat Notre Dame. Penn State's loss was to Texas, an 11-1 football team, and to USC in the first 2 games of the season. And they were very close games, 17-13 and 19-14. So Penn State actually has the best resume of the 2 lost teams. So because of that, our college football playoff looks like this. Texas, number 1 in the country at 11-1. Georgia Tech, number 2. Florida, 3, off probation. And Penn State at number 4. Interesting to note that Florida's on probation. Otherwise, they would have been in the mix, but they were not because of the NCAA infractions. And no Colorado because they wouldn't have won the fifth down game. No Miami. Think of this. The number 1 seed in the college football playoff under this scenario is very legit. Texas, the Southwest Conference champion. But that 10-1 Texas team that would have been 11-1 with a conference championship game win over Houston, a team they beat easily earlier in the season, that team actually lost to Miami in the Cotton Bowl. Was it a good game? Canes won it 46-3. So we are awarding, and rightfully so, based on not knowing what would have happened in postseason play. We, of course, can't play it like that. Are awarding a 1 seed, and again, this team earned the 1 seed at 11-1 and a major conference champion, but they went on to lose to Miami by 43 points in the Cotton Bowl. So here's your college football playoff again, based on the regular season and the would-be conference championship games. Texas 1, Georgia Tech 2, Florida 3, Penn State 4. But based on what we know, having watched the bowl games and postseason play, here are actually the 4 best teams in the country, and none of them would have made the college football playoff. The 4 best teams in the country, if you really look at schedules and talent and what happened during the bowl season, the 4 best teams in the country, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, and Washington. Those are the 4 best teams in the country. And there you have it. The 1990 football season, screwed up as can be, with Georgia Tech having defeated the 19th ranked team in the country in a bowl game to split a national championship with Colorado, who won a bowl game on a bogus clipping penalty after they won a November game on a 5th down. And if everything would have been, all the wrongs would have been righted, Colorado has 3 losses and 1 tie. Your best teams in the country are Miami, Florida State, Washington, Notre Dame, Penn State. Your teams that would have made a playoff in this format that we currently have, Texas, Georgia Tech, Florida, and Penn State. But instead, you've got a split national championship between Colorado, 3-loss Colorado, and Georgia Tech, who played the 19th best team in the country in a bowl game. You get this kind of analysis here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Would love to hear your comments in the comment section below. Please like, share the videos on social media, and subscribe right here. See you next time.